The wind howled over the wet jungle of planet Varos 7. Thick fog hung in the air. The ground was soft, almost like quicksand. No one came this way, not unless they had a death wish. Callan, a human explorer, moved slowly through the darkness. He wore a brown cloak over his armor, and his boots were muddy from hours of walking. He was returning to his camp after collecting samples near the riverbank. The night was cold, and strange sounds echoed from the trees. Suddenly, Callan stopped. Something had moved near the edge of the swamp. He raised his flashlight and scanned the area. At first he saw nothing, just mud, broken plants, and rippling water. But then he saw it. A shape was crawling out of the thick mud. At first, Callan thought it was an animal. But as it rose to its knees, he realized it was a person. No, not a person. An alien woman. She was covered in dirt and slime. Her long, dark hair stuck to her face. Her skin was a soft silver color, with faint glowing lines running down her back. She wore no clothes, only a broken collar around her neck and bruises on her arms. She fell forward, gasping for breath. Callan moved closer, keeping his hand on his weapon. "Hey, can you hear me?" The alien woman lifted her head slowly. Her eyes glowed a soft purple, filled with pain and fear. She tried to speak but coughed instead. Then she whispered something. One broken word. "Help." Callan knelt beside her. "You're hurt. Who did this to you?" She shook her head weakly. Her body was shaking, almost frozen from the cold mud. She looked like she hadn't eaten in days. Callan took off his cloak and wrapped it around her. He looked around. No tracks, no ship. She must have escaped from somewhere nearby. "I'm going to take you back to my shelter," he said. "You'll be safe there." The alien girl didn't respond. Her eyes closed and she passed out. 15 minutes later, Callan reached his small shelter hidden between tall trees. It was made of metal sheets and energy shields, enough to protect him from local predators. He laid the alien woman on a padded bench. He used a wet cloth to clean the mud from her face. She had cuts on her back and a strange mark on her shoulder, some kind of branding. Whoever had owned her treated her like property. Callan frowned. "Who are you? And what happened to, you?" He placed a thermal blanket over her body. The shelter's heater slowly warmed the air. As she slept, Callan sat nearby, watching. His mind raced with questions. Why was she out there alone? Why was she naked and branded like a slave? And most of all, why had she run to a human for help? An hour passed. Suddenly, the alien woman stirred. Her eyes opened wide and she sat up quickly, panicking. She looked around, ready to fight. "Hey, easy," Callan said, raising his hands. "You're safe. I'm not going to hurt you." She looked at him, breathing hard. Then she looked down and realized she was covered by a blanket. She clutched it tightly to her chest and backed away to the corner of the shelter. "I'm Callan," he said gently. "I found you near the swamp. You were freezing. I brought you here." She blinked, confused. "Why, help me?" "Because you needed help," he replied. "That's it." She didn't speak for a moment. Then, in a low voice, she said, "Nera, my name." "Nera." Callan gave her a small nod. "Nice to meet you, Nera." She looked at him strangely, as if trying to understand. "You... human?" "Yes. From Earth." Her eyes widened slightly. "You... different. Most would leave me. Or sell me. I'm not like most," Callan said. Then there was a strange sound, a faint beeping from Callan's motion sensor. He quickly checked the screen. Movement. Outside the shelter. Fast. He stood up and grabbed his plasma rifle. "What is it?" Nera asked weakly. "Trouble," Callan said, his voice sharp now. "Someone's coming." Nera's face turned pale. "They found me." Callan looked at her. "Who?" She shook her head. "They hunt me." Callan stepped to the door, weapon ready. He didn't know who they were, but they were about to learn what happened when you tried to take something from a human who had already decided to protect it. The first thing Nayra felt was warmth. For so long she had known only cold metal floors, biting chains, and the wet chill of the swamp. But now, something soft covered her. Something warm wrapped her body. Slowly, her eyes opened. She was no longer in the mud. She was in a room, small, quiet, and glowing with orange light. Strange human tools were neatly packed on shelves. A small fire crackled inside a heat unit in the corner. It smelled clean. Safe. Then she remembered the man. She sat up fast, panic flooding her chest. Her body ached. Her bruises burned. She looked down and saw a dark brown cloak wrapped around her, soft against her skin. A sound. Footsteps. She turned her head. The human stood near the doorway, holding a steaming mug in one hand and a scanner in the other. He didn't raise his weapon. He didn't shout. He just looked surprised and relieved. "You're awake," he said. She stared at him in silence. He set the mug down on a table and held up his hands. "It's okay. You're safe here. I'm Callan." Nayra's lips moved slowly. "Why am I here? You were half dead in the swamp. I brought you to my shelter." She looked down at herself, again her body still shaking. "You didn't hurt me?" "No," he said firmly. "I gave you warmth, food, medicine." She stared at him, confused. "No one helps me, not since the chains." Callan frowned. "Who chained you?" She didn't answer. She looked away, as if even thinking about it made her soul shatter. Callan didn't press her. Instead, he picked up the mug and handed it to her. "Drink this, it'll help." She sniffed it. Warm, slightly sweet. Her body screamed for energy. She drank slowly, carefully, watching him the whole time. "You're not from this system," she said after a while. "Earth," he replied. "I'm just a freelance explorer. This planet was supposed to be uninhabited." Nayra gave a weak laugh, dry and bitter. "Your map lied." Callan sat down across from her. "What's your name?" "Nayra." "Okay, Nayra," he said, voice calm. "I don't know who's chasing you, but last night after I brought you here, someone was tracking your location." Nayra's face turned pale. "They must have planted a signal on me." She suddenly began clawing at the metal collar still on her neck. Her eyes were wild. "I have to remove it, if they find me." "Stop," Callan said. He walked over and gently grabbed her wrists. "You'll hurt yourself." She froze. No one had touched her like that before, not with care. Callan took out a tool from his belt. "Hold still." He worked quickly, scanning the collar. "Old model, slave tech, but I've cracked worse." Nayra's heart pounded as he worked. In less than a minute, the collar clicked and dropped to the floor with a heavy thud. She touched her neck slowly. She had worn it for so long she almost didn't know how it felt to be free. "Why would you do this for me?" she whispered. Callan looked her in the eyes. "Because someone should have. A long time ago." She blinked quickly, tears building in her eyes. But she didn't let them fall. Then, a sharp beep echoed through the shelter. Callan moved to his scanner. "They're close, less than a kilometer." Nayra stood on shaky legs. "I'll run. They want me, not you." "I'm not letting you go alone," he said. "If they find you, they'll kill you. Or worse." "You don't even know what I am," she said. "I know enough. You were covered in mud, half dead, and you still asked for help. That's enough for me." Outside, leaves rustled. A shadow passed the window. Nayra's voice was low. "They're here." Callan tossed her a cloak. "Stay behind me." She looked at him, this strange human who could have sold her, ignored her, or used her like so many others, but didn't. He stood tall, rifle in hand, staring at the door like he had nothing to fear. Nayra wrapped the cloak around herself. In that moment, for the first time in years, she felt something dangerous. Something almost forgotten. Hope. The wind outside had gone quiet. Too quiet. Callan adjusted the power level on his rifle and kept his eyes on the entry door. The motion sensors were blinking red. Something, no, someone, was out there. More than one. Nayra stood in the back corner of the shelter, hiding behind metal crates. Her silver skin still looked weak, but her eyes had become sharp again. The fire of survival had returned. Suddenly, Callan's earpiece crackled. A signal. Someone was sending a message directly to his comms. "Human," a deep voice said in Galactic Standard. "Hand over the girl. She is property of the Bloodscale Syndicate. You have 30 seconds. Callan didn't respond. He slowly walked to the front shield door and peered through the small reinforced window. 3 figures stood just beyond the trees. One wore black armor, with glowing red eyes, clearly the leader. The second was a tall insectoid creature with blade arms folded across its chest. The third was smaller, but carried a massive plasma cannon on its back. "Bounty hunters," Nayra whispered. Her voice trembled. "They'll burn this place to ash." Callan turned to her. "Not before I send them back in pieces." "No," she said quickly, stepping forward. "They don't care about you. I'll go. If they take me, you'll be safe." "I didn't save you so you could throw yourself back into chains," Callan replied. The door buzzed again. 15 seconds, the voice growled. Callan looked at Nayra. "Do you trust me?" She hesitated, then nodded. "Good," he said. "Get under the floor hatch. Stay there. No matter what happens, don't come out until I call you." She dropped into the hidden crawl space, heart pounding. The door exploded. Smoke and sparks flew across the shelter. Callan was already rolling behind a crate, gun raised. The bounty hunters stormed in. The armored leader walked in first, scanning the room. "You had your chance, human, now—" He didn't finish the sentence. Callan pulled the trigger. A high-powered plasma round slammed into the insectoid's leg. The creature shrieked and fell sideways, knocking over equipment. The big one with the plasma cannon roared and fired wildly, blasting a hole through the far wall. Energy sparks burst into the air. Callan ducked and moved fast, using every inch of cover. This wasn't his first fight. He used to be in the Earth Alliance Marines. These guys had power but not training. He shot again, this time hitting the leader's shoulder. The alien grunted and stumbled but stayed on his feet. From beneath the floor, Nayra could feel the shelter shaking. She covered her mouth, trying not to scream. The sound of weapons, shouts, and heavy footsteps was all around her. Then, silence. A loud crash. And then, just breathing. The hatch above her opened. Callan stood there, bruised, bleeding slightly, from his forehead, but alive. "It's over," he said. Nayra crawled out, her eyes wide with disbelief. The 3 bounty hunters were down. One was unconscious, one groaning on the floor, and the leader was tied with synth rope, glaring with rage. Callan dragged a chair over and sat down, breathing hard. "They underestimated you," Nayra said softly. "Everyone does," he replied. She looked at him like she was seeing a ghost. "You're just a man, but you fought like a war machine." Callan gave a half smile. "You'd be surprised how dangerous a man can be when he has nothing to lose." Nayra was quiet for a moment. Then she stepped closer. "Why are you helping?" "Me," he met her eyes. "Because someone needs to." She looked at the tied-up bounty hunter. "They won't stop. Others will come." "Then we keep moving," he said. "I'll take you somewhere safe." Nayra's voice shook. "There is no safe place. There's Earth," Callan said, "and if not Earth, then we'll make our own." For the first time, Nayra smiled. Outside, the jungle was still again. Inside, a strange truth had been born. 1 alien girl, 1 human soldier, and a silent promise. They would survive. Together. The next morning, mist rolled over the jungle floor like a slow-moving ghost. Inside the damaged shelter, Callan was fixing a power coil while Nayra sat near the heater, silent and still. She hadn't spoken much since the bounty hunters. Her body had healed enough to move, but her eyes looked far away, as if she were standing on the edge of a memory she didn't want to revisit. Callan finally asked, "Who were they really after, Nayra?" "A runaway slave doesn't bring bounty hunters with military-grade weapons." She looked at him slowly. "You want the truth?" He nodded. "I think I deserve it." She sighed. "Fine, but you won't like it." She stood and walked toward the fire. She pulled back the cloak from her shoulder, revealing a symbol burned into her skin. It looked like a circle with 3 sharp wings glowing faintly. Callan leaned forward. He recognized it. Barely. He'd seen it once in an old Earth archive. "That's not a slave mark," he said. "That's royal. I'm the last of the Thrillani high bloodline," she said quietly. "Daughter of a fallen queen. I wasn't sold. I escaped." Callan stared at her. "My mother tried to stop the wars between our worlds. She believed in peace with the other species, especially humans. But others in the Thrillani Council wanted power, not peace. They called her weak. They staged a coup. My family was executed." "And you?" Callan asked. "I was 13. They spared me because they thought I was useless. But I heard too much. I saw the secret they were hiding." She turned to him, her voice now trembling. "There is something buried on this planet, something ancient, something powerful, and my blood is the key to unlocking it." Callan's mind spun. "Wait, what kind of something?" "My people called it the core seed," she explained. "It's a living vault of Thrillani knowledge and technology, sealed away after a great war thousands of years ago. Weapons, ships, designs, too powerful to be left in anyone's hands, not even ours." "And you can access it?" Callan asked. Nayra nodded. "The high blood line was genetically tied to it. Only someone with my DNA can open it." "Now I understand why they want you dead," Callan muttered. "Or chained." She stepped closer. "They didn't just want to erase me, they wanted to erase the truth. If the core seed is found, the Thrillani lie collapses. Their empire falls. And humanity, what about us?" She looked him in the eyes. "My mother believed that humans were different, that Earth had something we lost long ago. Heart, courage, unity. If the core seed is activated, she wanted to share its knowledge with humans, not the Council." Callan stood up. "So you're saying we're standing on top of a buried superweapon and only you can open the door?" "Something like that," Nayra replied. "And you didn't think to tell me this before?" "I didn't know if I could trust you," she said, voice rising. "You're a human, yes, but I've seen humans sell girls like me for fuel credits." Callan didn't argue. He'd seen it too. There was a long silence between them. Then she added softly, "But you didn't." He looked at her again. "So, where is this core seed?" She closed her eyes. "In the dead forest, 60 kilometers south, but it's guarded. Ancient drones, old traps, and..." A beeping sound cut her off. Callan's sensor flashed again. Nayra grabbed his arm. "More bounty hunters?" "No. This is different. It's a coded signal. Someone's looking for me this time." He checked. The screen, coordinates. A short message blinked. "Callan, Earth needs you. Priority red. Do not trust alien female." Nayra froze. "They know about me." He turned off the screen. "I don't care what they say," he said. "I've seen you bleed, cry, fight. You're not the enemy." She blinked fast. "You'd choose me, over your own kind." "I'm choosing the truth." There was a deep rumble in the distance. They both turned. On the horizon, a sleek black ship was descending through the clouds, earth markings on the side. It didn't look like rescue. It looked like judgment. Nayra stepped back. "They're here for the core seed. They'll take it. Use it for war." "Then we can't wait any longer," Callan said. He grabbed his rifle, stuffed gear into a bag, and handed Nayra a small stun blade. "You still want to unlock that vault?" She nodded. "Yes." "Then let's make history." They ran into the jungle together. The forest closed behind them. The race had begun. The jungle changed as they moved south. The bright greens of Varro 7 turned darker, older, almost haunted. Trees grew thicker, their twisted roots like claws, reaching through the soil. Vines hung like ropes from dying branches. This was the edge of the dead forest, a cursed place even by alien standards. Callan pushed through a thick wall of leaves, sweat dripping from his brow. Behind him, Nera walked silently, her cloak dragging slightly, her steps slow but steady. Her face looked calm, but her eyes stayed alert, watching everything. They hadn't spoken much in hours. It wasn't because of anger, it was because of what was coming. They both knew this wasn't just a mission anymore. It was war. Quiet, invisible and crawling behind every tree. Suddenly, Nera stopped. Her head tilted to the side. "Don't move," she said sharply. Callan froze. From under the leaves ahead, a thin, glowing thread stretched across the ground. Callan's boot was 1 inch away from it. "Old Trilani tripwire," Nera whispered, "linked to drone pods." Callan stepped back carefully. "How many of these are out here?" "Too many." She bent down and deactivated the wire with her thumbprint. As it dissolved, Callan looked at her and said, "You just saved my life." She smiled faintly. "Now we're even." By nightfall, they set up camp near the ruins of a collapsed Trilani temple. The broken stones were covered in moss, and old energy veins still pulsed faintly in the walls. Callan started a small fire with his portable burner. Nera sat across from him, arms crossed, watching the flames dance. "You used to live in places like this?" he asked. She nodded. "My childhood home looked like this. Marble halls, gardens filled with light, music in the air. I didn't know how lucky I was, until it was all taken." "Do you miss it?" She thought for a while, then said, "I miss who I was back then, not what I had." Callan nodded. He understood. There was a long silence between them. The kind that wasn't uncomfortable, but deep, heavy with things that didn't need words. Then Nera reached into her satchel and pulled something out, a small glowing crystal. "What's that?" Callan asked. "A memory stone," she said. "My mother gave it to me the night before she died." She held it up. A soft blue light floated above her palm, showing a holographic image. A tall Trilani woman with long silver hair, standing proudly. Beside a little girl, Nera, she said, "One day they'll call you broken, but you'll carry the last truth, and someone will believe in you enough to help you set it free." Nera looked at Callan. "You're that someone." He didn't speak, but the way he looked at her said everything. Later, as they prepared to sleep under the old temple roof, a sound echoed from the jungle. Footsteps. Callan grabbed his weapon. Nera drew her stun blade. From the trees, a tall creature stepped out, not human and definitely not Trilani. It wore a patchwork robe of armor and fur, and a strange mechanical eye glowed red on its face. Nera gasped. "A Korak." Callan raised his gun. "Friend or enemy?" The Korak raised his hands. "That depends. Are you the human protecting the royal exile?" Callan didn't answer. Nera stepped forward. "Why do you care?" "I don't," the Korak said. "But I hate the Trilani Council more than I hate anything, and I know where the entrance to the core seed lies." Nera narrowed her eyes. "Why would you help us?" The Korak tilted his head. "Because if the seed stays buried, the council remains in power, and if it rises, maybe someone better will lead next time." Callan looked at Nera. She gave him a nod. The Korak stepped closer. "We move at first light." And just like that, the alliance grew. Not because they trusted each other, but because the galaxy had taken too much from them all. And maybe, just maybe, this strange team, a hunted alien princess, a human soldier, and a rogue warrior from a dead tribe, could do the impossible. The core seed's resting place was nothing like Nera remembered. They reached the entrance just after dawn. The jungle had opened into a wide valley, and in its center stood a massive black stone structure, buried halfway in the earth. Vines curled around ancient pillars and a faint blue mist floated above the ground like a sleeping breath. "This is it," Nera whispered. The Korak nodded, one hand on his spear. Callan scanned the area. No drones, no signs of recent activity. "That's because it's waiting," Nera said. "It only opens for blood it remembers." She stepped forward. The front wall had a faded Threlani symbol, the same as the one burned into her shoulder. She placed her hand on it. A soft pulse of energy spread through the stone. Blue lights flickered to life and a massive door began to shift and grind open. Dust exploded from the cracks as the ancient gateway revealed a staircase descending into darkness. No one spoke. They entered. The archive beneath the surface was huge. Columns, stretched high above them, covered in glowing runes. Floating orbs of light followed them as they walked. Along the walls were holograms, images of Threlani history, long-forgotten wars, lost cities, and ancient peace treaties broken by greed. Nera paused at one projection. It showed her mother speaking at a council table. She wanted unity, Nera said quietly. They called it treason. Callan looked at her. "Let's find the seed." At the heart of the archive, they found it. A giant sphere floated in mid-air, spinning slowly. It hummed with power. Around it were panels covered in alien script and data rods glowing with centuries of lost knowledge. "This is the core," Nera said, stepping forward. "Once I connect to it, it'll start downloading into my DNA. No one can take it by force." The Korak circled the room, watching the doors. Callan stood close to Nera. "How long will it take?" "Not long," she said, "but it's dangerous. My mind may break. I need you to keep me grounded. I'm not going anywhere." She smiled, reached for the sphere, and placed both hands against it. The room trembled. A shock of light ran through her body, lifting her slightly off the ground. Her eyes rolled back and her voice whispered things in a language Callan couldn't understand. And then, a gunshot. Callan spun around. The Korak was holding a smoking blaster, not pointed at Callan, but at the console. Sparks flew. "No!" Callan shouted, running toward him. But it was too late. The Korak kicked Callan hard in the chest, sending him sliding across the floor. "I'm sorry, human," the Korak said coldly, "but I wasn't here to help you. I was here to stall you." The shadows behind him moved. 3 armored soldiers stepped into the chamber. Threlani enforcers. The council had arrived. They aimed their weapons at Nera. She was still floating, still connected, but her body twitched. She couldn't stop, couldn't run, couldn't speak. "She's merging with the seed," one soldier yelled. "Cut the connection," barked another. The Korak raised his weapon again, aiming at Nera's back. Callan rose, blood in his mouth, eyes burning. He didn't think. He charged. The Korak fired, but missed. Callan tackled him to the ground and drove a blade into his chest. The alien gasped, choking. "You would kill for her?" the Korak croaked. "I'd die for her," Callan growled. Then the lights in the chamber exploded with a blinding flash. The seed pulsed once, twice, and then stopped. Nera collapsed to the ground. The enforcers shielded their eyes. Callan grabbed Nera and pulled her behind a column. "Wake up, come on, Nera." She opened her eyes slowly. "Did it work?" he asked. She looked at him and smiled. "I remember everything." She stood up and raised her hand. The archive obeyed her. Light surged through the walls. A wave of energy burst from the ground. The enforcers screamed, thrown backward by a force they couldn't understand. The Korak, still bleeding, looked up in disbelief. "You became it." Nera turned to him, glowing with power. Her voice was calm. "Cold, no, I became me." Outside, birds scattered from the trees as the ground shook. The core seed had awakened, and so had Nera, the true heir. But war had just begun. The sky above HFY 7 had changed. The clouds no longer moved. They glowed, soft streaks of gold and blue drifting across the heavens like light through water. Birds circled higher than usual, keeping their distance. Trees, even the oldest ones, leaned slightly away from the valley. Something ancient had awakened beneath the earth, and the galaxy would never be the same. Callan lay on a cold stone bench in a ruined chamber beneath the core seed. His chest burned, with every breath. Dried blood crusted on his ribs and shoulder. But his eyes remained fixed on the woman who stood at the center of the room. Nayra. She wasn't the same girl he had found covered in mud. Now she glowed, faint but steady. Her silver skin shimmered under the lights of the archive, and her long dark hair flowed behind her like starlight caught in motion. The symbol once burned into her shoulder was gone, replaced by a new mark, a living seal of the core. She had become more than a royal heir. She had become something new, the last breath of a dying empire, and the first hope of a new one. How? Do you feel? Callan asked, voice hoarse. Nayra turned to him. Her eyes glowed faintly, but her smile was still hers, the same one she'd given him by the fire, the one full of pain and courage. I feel... She paused, searching for the right word. Whole. She knelt beside him and placed her hand on his wound. A warm light passed through her fingers. His pain faded. That's new, Callan muttered. The seed gave me access to everything. Technology, medicine, even memories that aren't mine. But you are still you, right? Nayra looked at him with sadness and wonder. You grounded me. If it weren't for you, I might have become a machine, just a carrier of data. But you kept me human. He grinned. You're not human. She leaned closer. Close enough. Later that day, they stood on a cliff outside the archive. Below them, the jungle moved like waves in the wind. Callan leaned against a rock, still sore, but standing. Nayra stood beside him, silent. What now? He asked. They'll come, she said. The council, the syndicates, maybe even Earth. They'll come because they'll be afraid. Of what? She looked at him. Of what happens when a slave stops obeying and starts leading. And they did come. Within a week, the Thrilani Council launched an assault fleet to Varos 7. Thousands of ships broke orbit, filling the sky with shadows. Elite enforcers dropped onto the surface, but the core seed had already transformed the land. Shield fields emerged from underground nodes. Ancient drones awakened. Old guardians, machines shaped like beasts, rose from broken temples, and Nayra stood at the center, wearing armor formed from the core's living metal. Her voice was broadcast through the air, across all channels, in every known language. You once called me a defect, a lost girl, a slave with no purpose. But I carry your forgotten truth. I am your guilt and your reckoning. I do not bring war, but I will not run from it. Callan fought beside her. He trained Nayra's resistance fighters. Many were aliens cast out from their homes, refugees, ex-soldiers, even criminals. But under Callan's command, they became something. They became defenders. Legends spread fast of the human who stood beside a fallen princess, not for power, not for gold, but because he believed in her. Some said he took plasma bolts to the chest for her. Others said he once dragged her from a battlefield while bleeding out himself. All of it was true, and more. Because in private moments, when the battles were silent and the stars were clear, he would sit with her, hand in hand, and they would talk about quiet things, about Earth, about lost childhoods, about music and food and what peace could feel like. I used to dream of flying ships, she once told him. Now I dream of a garden. I can build you one, he replied. In time, the council fell. Nayra didn't use her power to destroy them. She used it to expose them. She opened the seed's archive to the galaxy, released the files, the secrets, the war crimes, the truth. Their lies collapsed faster than any bomb. Some council members fled. Others were arrested. A few even begged Nayra for mercy. She gave them none, not because she hated them, but because she remembered the chains, and when the war ended, A new world began. They built the capital above the ruins of the old archive. Not high towers, but open halls. Not marble thrones, but long shared tables. Representatives from human colonies, Trilani exiles, and other species sat together. Disagreements were common, but so was progress. Nera led them. But she never called herself Queen. She chose a new title, First Voice, to remind everyone that her job wasn't to rule but to listen. Callan refused any title. He stayed by her side anyway, and one night, under a moonless sky, as they stood in the garden he had built with his own hands, she asked him something he didn't expect. "Would you stay with me?" she asked. "Not just as my protector, but as my home?" Callan didn't answer with words. He just held her. Years passed, and though the galaxy changed, one thing didn't. People still told the story of the silver-skinned woman who rose from the mud, of the core that awakened to her blood, and of the human who saw her, not as a weapon or a danger or a prize, but as a person, a woman who had been chained, hunted, and forgotten, until one stubborn, kind-hearted human chose to say, "You're safe now," and in return, she gave him everything. Not gold, not power, but her trust, her loyalty, her heart, and a galaxy reborn.